The arena falls dead silent. Above, the final beams of stark white illumination spill onto the glacial stage, holding thousands of watchers in a suffocating grip of suspense. Standing there, these competitors aren't simply battling the grueling physical toll of their trade. They are confronting a phantom, a crushing and unseen burden known as the demand for greatness. One tiny slip, one split second of hesitation, and a lifetime of grinding dissolves into dust. Yet in this chaos, certain stars ascend while others come crashing down. During the 2026 Milano Games, the globe watched a pair of skaters who perfectly embodied the brutal war between what we hope for and what actually happens. On one side stood Alysa Liu, a radiant lighthouse of pure happiness, contrasted sharply against Ilia Malinin, the formerly invincible quad god, whose armor of flawlessness shattered beneath the Italian glare. Ultimately, however, their legacy wasn't carved by medals or defeats, but by the winding roads they traversed to reach this stage. Right now, we are plunging into the sagas of these extraordinary competitors and the surprising wisdom they picked up during their travels. Chapter 1. Alysa Liu, an anthem to liberation. When Alysa Liu glided onto the rink in February of 2026, she arrived not merely as a participant, but as a disruptor of the status quo. The public had long recognized her as a phenom, a biological mechanism engineered solely for triumph, driven relentlessly by a patriarch who spotted her potential before she hit adolescence. Yet, the woman who landed in Milan was a transformed entity. Gone was the avatar of exactitude and flawlessness. In her place stood a 20-year-old carving the ice strictly on her own terms. She radiated a delight so infectious it spilled over the glass and flooded the entire stadium. When the first chords of the Lady Gaga mix hit the speakers, the energy whipped the audience into a frenzy before her blades even left the ice. Alysa wasn't simply competing, she was putting on a show. Every leap was executed with liquid elegance, yet it was her candid demeanor in the transitions that held the world spellbound. Instead of mechanically checking off boxes, she was chuckling, shooting cheeky glances at the scoring panel whenever she bobbled. Above all else, her soul was truly dancing. For an eternity, Alysa had been crushed beneath the discipline's demands, her youth reduced to a haze of 5 a.m., alarms and solitude, an engine designed for gold, fueled by the sacrifice of her own bliss, her path paved with relentless uncertainty. Upon reaching the Beijing Games in 2022, a mere 16-year-old, she had already snapped. Despising the very activity that gave her an identity, she placed 6th, though internally she was ticking off the microseconds until her liberation. In a move that stunned the community, mere weeks following the season's close, Alysa declared she was hanging up her skates for good. Just as most competitors enter their prime, she turned her back on the entire world of winter sports. The boots were tossed into storage, and for 2 full years, Alysa Liu vanished from the scene. Throughout her hiatus, Alysa finally tasted reality beyond the frozen oval. She matriculated at UCLA for psychology, strolled the grounds anonymous and unobserved, and even hiked to Mount Everest base camp, chasing the wild liberty she had never known. She altered her hairstyle, her fashion evolved to match her spirit, and she absolutely flourished. Then came the revelation. It wasn't the gliding she detested, but the suffocating expectations attached to it. The second she privately tied those laces to check for a spark, she understood a comeback was inevitable, but only by her own rules. By 2024, Alysa broadcast her return, armed with a priceless lesson from her sabbatical. Athletics should generate euphoria, not agony. She vowed never again to descend into the pits of burnout, solitude, and mental fatigue. The script was going to be rewritten. Many viewed her 2026 resurgence with doubt, questioning how a dropout could possibly re-enter the arena and hope to contend. Yet Alysa wasn't chasing hardware. She was chasing her own spirit, and the transformation was visible too. At her debut event, pundits whispered, questioning if her psyche could withstand the grinder once more. She silenced them all, turning every rotation and glide into a demonstration that went far beyond mechanics. She was establishing that happiness is as critical a weapon as talent on the ice. Part 2. Ilia Malinin, the toppling of a titan. On the opposing side, a darker narrative was taking shape around the defending planetary title holder. Known as the Quad God, a moniker bonded to his peerless talent for landing history's hardest aerials, He built his legend by shattering the ceiling of what was physically possible. A juggernaut of the rink, he merged brute power with a tactician's brain, treating every maneuver like a mathematical equation waiting for a solution. Coming into the Milano Games in February 2026, Ilia rode a wave of invincibility, unbeaten across 14 contests over 2 years. He was the undisputed pick for the top of the podium, a man who looked unable to bleed. Then came the long program on February 13th, and the narrative fractured. For seasons, Ilia had served as the prototype of technical perfection, delivering 4 revolution spins with the cold accuracy of a computer. Sitting comfortably with a 5-point cushion over Japan's Yuma Kagiyama, the gold medal seemed inevitable until the wheels completely came off. His trademark quadruple axel popped into a useless single, followed immediately by a disastrous crash on the quad Lutz, dragging him from the top of the podium down to a shocking 8th-place finish. A hushed arena stared in disbelief while the broadcast lens tightened on his devastated expression in the kiss and cry. You couldn't see rage in his eyes, nor was there any sign of frantic desperation. Instead, he wore the hollow look of a man understanding that 3 years of grinding labor had just evaporated in 4.5 minutes. The crushing weight of the world's eyes had finally snapped him. But to really grasp this collapse, we need to peel back the layers of the quad god myth. Ilia Malinin wasn't part of some grand design to become a legend on the ice. Raised in Fairfax, Virginia, by Olympians Tatyana Malinina and Roman Skorniakov, the rink was his daycare. Yet they actively tried to steer him away from the blades. They knew intimately how unforgiving this sport could be, but their attempts to protect him failed against the boy's undeniable destiny. What started as a hobby morphed into a showcase of technical wizardry, as he began cracking the physics codes that governed figure skating. His ascent was meteoric. At just 14, he was throwing down triple jumps with a casual arrogance that left even his mother and father bewildered. However, the real seismic shift occurred when he set his sights on the quadruple axel, the mythical beast of skating, a maneuver deemed impossible in sanctioned competition. History was rewritten in Lake Placid during 2022 when he landed it clean, instantly securing his status as the greatest technician the sport had ever witnessed. For 3 glorious years, he was invincible, stacking up world titles and shattering records, while wielding an arsenal of 6 different quads that earned him his divine nickname. Yet in Milan, at the absolute apex of his powers, the floor fell out from under him, turning his coronation skate into a waking nightmare. His physical form revolted, transforming every rotation and landing into a mockery of his former precision, proving that technical mastery is never a guarantee. Raw talent should have carried him through, but on that specific afternoon, it simply wasn't enough. Part 3 explores the dichotomy of perfection versus humanity, framing Alysa Liu and Ilia Malinin as apparent opposites on the spectrum. Alysa represents the liberated soul, a rebel who discovered happiness by shattering the porcelain doll image forced upon her. Conversely, Ilia is the calculated engineer, a man whose self-worth became inextricably linked to the mechanics of his 4 revolution jumps. Yet scratch the surface, and you find they were forged in the same high-pressure crucible, both carrying the crushing weight of global expectation, though Alysa's comeback was defined by her brave decision to release that burden. She stopped chasing the phantom of flawlessness and instead ran toward joy, artistic truth, and personal liberty. Skating on her own terms, she flipped the script on what a gold medalist is supposed to represent. That internal shift unlocked her ultimate triumph, whereas Ilia found himself devoured by the very standard of excellence he had invented. As the technical marvels and impossible elements that built his legend eventually constructed his jail cell, demanded to be superhuman every single day, he finally buckled when his mind and body could no longer uphold the illusion of invincibility. However, the true hook of Ilia's narrative lies in his refusal to stay down. While many would let such a public collapse define their legacy, he transformed that Olympic heartbreak into high-octane fuel. He recognized that hitting rock bottom wasn't the finale, but rather the prologue to a fresh chapter. The revolution he sparked is still burning, and he is already plotting a vengeance tour. Here begins Part 4, the road to redemption and legacy. Looking ahead, we are left wondering what the universe has in store for both Alysa Liu and Ilia Malinin. For Alysa, snatching gold in Milan wasn't a conclusion, but the opening line of a brand new story. She defeated the demons of expectation to uncover a happiness she thought was lost, making her win about far more than just hardware. It was a reclamation of her soul. While for Ilia, the path to salvation is only just starting. He has already locked in his spot for the 2026 Worlds in Prague, hunting the glory that slipped through his fingers in Italy. His vision is fixed on the impossible again, the quintuple jump, the final frontier of the sport. Through failure, he has evolved from a master of mechanics into a testament to human endurance. Both skaters have proven that legendary status isn't about an unblemished scorecard or technical perfection. It is measured by the guts to confront disaster, the strength to reconstruct yourself, and the wisdom to pick happiness over stress. Ultimately, the sagas of Alysa Liu and Ilia Malinin teach us that greatness extends far beyond the podium. It is about the relentless pursuit of authenticity, even when the entire world demands you wear a mask.